Call to order. The January 23rd Town Sylva Board Commissioners meeting. Welcome everyone. First thing on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Can I motion we do that? Motion, we have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign, the motion carries. Also entertain a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Make that motion.
Have a motion, do we have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign, and the motion carries. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment? No? Moving on to reports, start with mayor's report. I've been asked to remind everyone that, we have a budget meeting next Thursday at 9 o'clock. Sure, all of us that can be will be here for that. And speaking of all of us that can be being here, we have a board member, Mark Jones, who's very sick in the hospital. He has kidney failure. There's some details about it that I won't share, but keep Mark and his family in your prayers. Side note for me is like commend Jake and his crew for outstanding job keeping the snow skin off the roads in the city limits of Sylva. Did a great job. Did a great job. So I'll move on to Miss Mary.
Sure. Just one comment. I want to piggyback on my comments at the last board meeting about the skate park. Today, the printed copy of the Sylva Herald that was online yesterday, there's a very informative article written by Beth Lawrence regarding the 10-year master plan that Director Michael Hopkins oversees. If you have an opportunity, read that. That kind of explains the process of how folks might see a skate park in the next 10 years. If there's any other interest, if there's like an area for a pump track or kayakers looking for a play hole, any kind of outdoor tourism, recreational opportunity we want to see in the next 10 years for Jackson County, it has to be part of that 2025 plan. And the 2025 plan takes 12 months to prepare. It's not something that just happens overnight. And we want to have the entire county speak up about what they want. So there will be various meetings, there will be online surveys, there'll be many opportunities to get involved. So I'm just speaking out to the entire community, the entire county of Jackson County. If there's something you want to see, speak up. I was really excited to go to the county meeting with John Brown a couple of nights ago and see how many people came out for public comments. It just warmed my heart to see young people, high school kids out there speaking their truth about some of their interests in our county. And it's only going to happen if you speak up. So speak up. That's it. Thanks.
You know, kayak, like something I've had thought about it too. I'd love to see somebody do some kind of setup, float something out through the middle of the city limits. That just didn't be good. But anyway, Brad.
I just want to report that it's cold, and I know that puts particular strain on public works, police, and fire departments, and commend you guys for doing way more than I know, and I'm probably most people know that brings specific challenges, and I know you guys have been humping it through this cold weather. Thank you very much. That's it.
I just wanted to let the board know that I was going to step down from the department. Can't allocate enough time, even though it's once a month and some emails, but I turned that over to John Brown to take over that position. That's all I've got. Yeah, just following up along with what Blitz just mentioned, I'm interested in being a part of that planning board. Just went up to the top the other day, Pinnacle in the snow, and it's a great park. So I'm looking forward to being a part of that. And also to piggyback on to what Mary was talking about, the skate park,
it was good to be at the commissioners meeting, the county commissioners meeting the other night and hear how much support there is. I had no idea those folks were gonna be there. It was a lady and several high school students who got to share about benefits of having a skate park, why they would love to see that happen. A lot of kids aren't into team sports, but they still need to be outside doing things active, and I'm all about that. Kids getting outside doing things, being together. There are some challenges and some big, obstacles. It's a process, but I think it would be great for the town and the county to collaborate. And I got up and just shared with commissioners how we, the town, would like to collaborate with them if at all possible, to maybe see that happen in the near future. And so I think there's some work underway, forming a task force, seeing what commissioners will support, the county commissioners and things like that. So I hope that this board can be supportive of that for our kids in our community. And so that was good to see that the other night. I think that's all I had.
Quick question, do we need to make a vote that you are representing the Pinnacle? Or I'm fine with it, it's great, but I just want to make sure we do protocol.
I'm pretty sure the server on the Pinnacle Park was volunteer. I don't think we ever really appointed Blitz either.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't vote again.
Okay.
I did touch base with Jay Coward, he heads that up. He told me it's great.
Super.
Come on, next meeting's February 3rd, I think. So.
Great.
All right, moving on. Public Works Board.
Good morning, everybody. I appreciate the thanks about the snow. This was a little different than normal. Cold temperatures let it really stack up quick, even though we got about 3 inches. It was a very tough 3 inches to manage. Fortunately, though, we didn't have loss of power that was reported to me. I'd like to thank my crew. We worked some long hours that evening, and I'd also like to thank Jackson County and the DOT for their partnership during those events as well. Sure y'all have all seen by now, and hopefully even got poke your head in. The downtown restrooms are open now. We've received the final pay application from Cinderella Partners. We've got a few little paint touch-ups and caulk touch-ups and very minor things to complete. Lynn and I and Paige, when she returns, will be looking to close that project out. I think that'll be a great amenity for people that live here and visitors. Daily progress is being made at Bryson Park. We've had a few hiccups here lately, but I'm still happy with the progress out there. We've selected roof colors, new siding's on its way, fixtures are here, tiles been selected. Interior's been reframed and replumbed. It had been rewired, but a break-in caused it to not be rewired anymore, so we're gonna have to back up and punt on that. But overall, I'm pleased with the progress moving forward. Talking about Pinnacle Park, the town just received right before Christmas a recreational trails program grant to add 2 loop trails at Pinnacle Park. The grant award is enough, so we'll be able to completely contract that out with a professional trail builder. That'll be done in partnership with Equinox Environmental, who we've worked with. Y'all are familiar with them by now, probably. They did the master plan at Pinnacle Park. And they did all the planning and contract admin for the Bryson, or the Bridge Park update. So we're excited about that. It's still very much in the beginning phases. And we'll keep y'all updated as updates develop on that. I'll be meeting with FEMA representatives here at Town Hall on February the 4th. This will be our first official site visit for the Scotts Creek retaining wall project. We've had numerous kind of orientation type meetings with FEMA. This will be the first time they put their eyes on the project, and I'll keep y'all updated on that as well. Street light upgrade here downtown is largely completed. You will notice that Mill Street and the fountain have not been done yet. That's being done on a separate contract. As soon as weather allows, then we'll get the mast arms painted to match. That hasn't been without its hiccups as well, and I appreciate everybody's patience, but I think those street lights look fantastic. Public Works is going to be welcoming 2 new employees here in the coming weeks. A couple of young guys, Cameron Powell and Jason Farmer, are both accepted maintenance technician positions. And we're looking forward to getting them out there and working for the council. Any questions? Thank you.
One thing, I did have a conversation with Sam,
Huh.
and I certainly will support, whatever you and him agree on for some additional time to make up for that break-in.
Yeah, monetarily, the damage wasn't huge. It's mostly just gonna be inconvenient. I believe between his insurance and we might throw in a 2-week extension on his contract by a change order. I think that'll get everybody where they need to be.
Okay, moving on to our police report.
Good morning. I'm with the police report this morning. There was with staffing, last time, talked about Officers Kirkland and the Falls and FTO. They've both completed their FTO on their permanent shifts. Both are doing well. Lieutenant Sumner Pavey and our social worker Galadriel attended an Out of the Darkness training. It covered mental health, wellness, PTSD management, and stress and burnout for officers. Detective Chris Cobb completed an 80-hour Police Law Institute course and was accepted into the Criminal Investigator Certificate Program, which is a 400-hour certification program for criminal investigators in the state. And then the chief and I recently attended the Chiefs Association Conference in Cherokee. And then we've got one patrol vacancy left that we're still working on filling. For our calls for service, it's been a few months since we had a police report. We've had a total of 2,420 calls, police actions logged since our last update, which averages out to about 806 per month. Kind of a breakdown of that is 376 traffic stops, 114 traffic crashes, 262 follow-up investigations, and 67 arrests, which resulted in 68 misdemeanor charges and 65 felony charges. Our K-9 program was deployed a total of 29 times, and they seized a combined total of 46 grams of suspected narcotics, which included crack cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl. Community care has logged 100 actions in that time frame. It's had 17 new referrals. The program is going to be featured on a PBS program called NC Impact, which will air on PBS February 21st at 7:30 p.m. It should be on the digital format before that, but I don't think we have a date for when exactly it's going to be on the digital format. And the chief and Galadriel have also completed several other media contacts about the program. Event-wise, we've completed Treat Street, the tree lighting and fireworks, and then also the Christmas parade. I think everything went smoothly there. We didn't have any issues. We've currently started planning for greening up the mountains. We had our first meeting on that last week. And then the last thing, I mentioned the new vehicles that we were able to purchase. Since the last update, they've been delivered and they are currently in Franklin Public Safety Services getting all their equipment. And they should be on the road within the next week or two. So you should see them out and about. I do want to thank Andy Shaw Ford and Greg Jameson for the deal they gave us and the ability to buy them here local. That's it.
Thank you. Fire department.
Morning. This month's been fairly busy. Of course, it always is this time of year. We've had 74 calls since the first year. Hadn't had any major fires, and that's a good thing. We've had a couple of minor ones, mostly wrecks and medical calls. Of course, the cold weather affects that some too. Also, since we had the last report, we signed the contract to buy the fire truck we've been talking about for years. We finally got it ordered. Probably won't see it till probably sometime in 26. Pretty long delivery on those now. And that's about all I got, unless y'all got any questions.
Thank you. Thanks, food report.
Good morning. It's been a while since we met and we had a lot of things that happened in between. We had a really great Treat Street with probably our largest attendance that we've had in a long time. A really good tree lighting and holiday fireworks. Really grateful for our partnership with the Chamber of Commerce to make that happen. A great Christmas parade. We appreciate all the volunteers. It took a village to do that. Public Works, police, fire, EMS, everyone who worked through the weekend to prepare for that event. I think the community really enjoyed it. The Sylva Shop and Stroll was held the last 3 Thursday evenings before Thanksgiving with retailers open late, Santa Claus, carolers, and some kids crafts by Sylva Art and Design. The evenings were kind of lightly attended. So this is our second year we've tried extended retail hours. And with the merchant feedback, we agreed that we're going to do the last 3 Saturdays before Christmas during the day. And hopefully amplify their sales then. Bringing Up the Mountains vendor applications went live on January 1st. The room was full. So the directors are no longer accepting applications for jewelry, soaps, pottery, nonprofits, and food vendors at this point. The festival is scheduled for the 26th of April. And volunteers can sign up to help at bringingupthemountains.com. So we need a lot of them to host this event for sure. We're very thankful for Western Carolina University and Jennifer Hinton for completing an ADA study for downtown Sylva. I have a link to that. It's 96 pages with photographs. So if any of you want to see that, I'm happy to send it to you. Jake and I are working on a plan to improve the downtown based on the study. So we're going to group some things together with projects. And we appreciate all the merchants who are working to ensure that the items and signs on the sidewalks are up against their buildings to accommodate persons with disabilities. So you can already see some things changing. The facade grants, they're almost complete. The projects look absolutely amazing. So if you haven't gone downtown, take a look. The ones who have completed their facades, Matt Batter, Lazy Hiker, Jackson County Chamber of Commerce, Southern and Sunkist, Freedom Pavilion, Wild Kitchen, Martha's Place, Remax, Motion Makers, and Innovation Brewing. Ilda and Yoga Mill will be completed by mid-April or sooner. And Baxley's will take a little longer since it's part of a larger project to preserve the building. So thank you guys for supporting this. And we really appreciate the Jackson County TDA and the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina for funding this program and supporting it. We have 100% -1 of property owners who agree to allow Blitz and Brad to remove the defunct utilities and mounts from the Mill Street side of their buildings. So they're going to be looking at scheduling that. So we're really excited about how that's going to improve the look. Yeah. Y'all have any questions for me?
You mentioned several types of vendors that are no longer being accepted. Putting up what is left, what's available.
Everything else except for those. So, you know, it's all artisans. And we only have about 10 slots left, I believe. So, you know, we're working on kind of a different strategy next year to make sure everything's communicated well in advance. But the tax collection portion, we realized that we needed to move that back a week, so it'll be the second week of January.
So, question for me is how many people have we turned away?
Well, we haven't finalized that list yet because we're waiting on a few of them to accept payments. And we always hold out a few spots with a waiting list just in case others cancel. So we will probably wait over the next month to send a notice out, letting people know that their application wasn't accepted.
So, just a thought that's crossed my mind is if we're turning away enough people to maybe consider expanding it.
So there's definitely been some expansion this year, which has been great. We have a little more room at Bridge Park for what we're planning. So hopefully that will allow us to grow a little bit. We're still trying to make sure that we have enough egress and things like that for safety.
Question about the festival. Has there been any talk about having vendors over at Mark Watson Park? Because a lot of folks park over there. Spend more space. It's been that.
We haven't really talked about that. That does make kind of a little safety challenge, making sure that we make sure that folks get over there safely because it's kind of tight. But, it's definitely something we can look at. Because expanding the festival also brings more people, and we capped out at around 12,000 last year. So it does, it makes it more challenging for parking and shuttles and all of that infrastructure that we need to do.
Has there ever been any talk about festival vendors and their cars staying together where the festival's laid out in such a way that they don't have to move their vehicle?
That is a great idea. It really makes it easier for them. The challenge is we lose so much room to do that.
I just wonder if like the cluster that happens in a festival, like having to go move your car could be alleviated and it could be widened. more space,
Sure.
just a thought.
Yeah, I know that, the morning setup and then moving their cars, that goes really smoothly. I think our greater challenge is at the end of the day, getting everyone packed up and getting their cars in. But, that's why we need so many volunteers, especially for setup and takedown.
I helped with that last year as well, and people had a hard time finding where they were supposed to park and walking back to their stuff and somebody to watch their stuff while they're trying to take their car where it belongs. First people that's a major problem for, if we ever did expand it, maybe Mark Watson could be an area where vendors could keep the vehicles with them. Be the option.
That is a big parking area where people are coming as well. So. Any other questions?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to new business, we have 3 applications for alcohol at Ridge Park, and I think Bernadette's going to make a presentation on those, is that right?
Yes. So we've got 3 that we need to approve. We go through this process every time we have a request for alcohol, whether it's a private request or something that we sponsor. So the first one is for Grading Up Mountains. That's for April 26th. The next is for all of the concerts on the creek and 4th of July. And I believe, what is the date of awards?
May, Exactly.
May 7th. So awards has their celebration of their employees every year, and they reserve Bridge Park for May 7th. So I would ask that you would discuss and make a motion to approve that. Also we'll bring up that we have a social district that ends at 9 p.m. In the past, we have voted to extend that till 10 p.m. for the concerts on the creek and 4th of July. So we would ask that you would entertain.
These need to be done in separate motions.
Yes.
So I didn't find a motion that we approve the special event request for Wolf Plumbing and Heating Employee Appreciation Day.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion, do we have any discussion?
I need to recuse myself from the vote.
Okay. So we'll acknowledge that. All in favor? All opposed by like sign, the motion carries. Next is a special event request for Grading Up the Mountains, for alcohol there. Then find a motion that we approve that.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, that motion needs to include extending, the next one, make sure you have in the motion to extend the social district hours.
Next,
The next,
so we have a motion, do we have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign, the motion carries. We also have a special event request for concerts on the creek with the alcohol service, and that's the one that needs to extend to 10 o'clock.
Correct.
Okay, entertain a motion, we do that.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, have a motion, do we have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. All opposed by like sign, the motion carries. And the last thing on our agenda is a presentation from, I think, our police chief, our community care program.
Morning, everybody. See everyone in just a second. So we're gonna do, feeling a little bit traumatized. It will not be an hour plus. This is just a quick update. I've already had a couple looks like, not like last time, so not like last time. Last time we was
another meeting at 10, so.
not like last time. So what we want to do is, as we've reached the end of another year of this program, and nothing that we do in police work always attracts a lot of attention. But this program is a show killer in a lot of ways. And so I get tons of questions, and I'm sure you folks do too. And so what I want to do is just give you a quick update with some end of the year stats, and that way you can see how things went last year, and really quick about where we've been, where we are now, and then where we're headed in the future. So just for anybody who's watching or who's here that doesn't know what the community care program is, It is a program that was developed by Western Carolina University, and the Sylva Police Department was the first agency to participate in that, and we're the flagship of that, and have been doing it the longest. It's garnered a lot of attention. It's very successful. This is, in my opinion, the absolute future of law enforcement. I just cannot tell you how many problems that this solves for our town and for me and for our agency. And so we'll get more into that, but it's basically to really synopsize it, it's basically a embedded social worker that works in our agency full-time with our agency all the time. And so the police get called to a lot of social issues that are not criminal, which is not what we're intended to do, but that's how we're set up in America. That's how it is. And so this helps us with those non-criminal issues. And instead of using jail, we have the opportunity to actually help the human being that needs help. And so, and it's very effective. So, Robbie, we actually just hand me. So that's what the community care program is. Here are the goals of that program. Expand the law enforcement toolbox by increasing officer response options beyond arrest, citations, and warnings. Folks, we have jail. That's the tools we're giving. Jail or a mental commitment, and the standard is a lot higher for that than what people realize. Most of your issues don't fall into a mental commitment situation. So this gives us an extra tool. Promote long-term solutions for community members in need through connections with appropriate resources. We are not a resource-rich place. We don't have a ton of resources. Most of our significant resources have a group of counties, and we're one of those counties. To promote safety of officers and community members to increase opportunities for de-escalation, proactive pre-crisis intervention. We'll talk more about that I'm going to show you the statistics for this year. You'll see how that play out. Harm reduction to reduce the risk of trauma from negative interactions between law enforcement and community members. We didn't put this in there, but it's also helpful for our officers to not have negative interactions with people. It's a two-way street. It's not just one. And when we have a report built with somebody when they're not in trouble and the police aren't being called on them, and then when we get that call, it's a whole different reaction. Just like in your lives, it's a whole different reaction when you have spoke with that person before and it wasn't negative and you weren't being accused of something, whatever. So that's a big one. And then efficiency, reduce officer workload and streamline officer workflow. We're going to talk about that too, just real quick. So I'm gonna have Galadriel come up. This is Galadriel Levere. This is our embedded social worker. We're gonna talk about how she's funded in just a little bit, but I'm gonna tell you, we just came from the Chiefs conference. I didn't know this was coming, but I get called to a lot of co-responder things in the state now. Like I'm on a lot of Zoom calls and webinars and all kinds of that type of thing. A lot of attention has come from this program. And I was just at the North Carolina Chiefs Association conference in Cherokee. And this was the coolest kid in the room. I'm just gonna be honest with you. There was people were coming. I was getting text messages of chiefs I don't know. And they were saying, "Hey chief, I heard you were here. I'm here too. Can I catch up with you before, while you're here? I want to talk about the social work program." And so we were literally meeting people in the hallway for the first time ever. And then whenever I told her, well, the social worker's here with me, oh, here we go. So now everything was directed to her and not to me. So definitely very, very popular, but she's going to cover the statistics for this year. So everything that you're looking at is this past calendar year. Okay.
Okay, so this is kind of a breakdown of the referrals that are received over the past year, and they're very similar to the year before. The highest is still the homelessness and unstable housing, followed by financial issues, mental health, substance use. We did see an increase in the well check, and that wasn't something that was as much on my radar before, but what we've seen happen is now we have businesses, family members, community members calling me to say, I'm seeing this individual or my cousin or my neighbor, and I'm concerned about them. Can you offer any resources? Do you know what we can do about this situation, or can you check on them? So I think that's why the well check number has gone up. And you can see the others are just kind of a small amount. Referrals provided. So a lot of people connected to housing agencies, to employment services, ESS, recovery supports and mental health. There's a large chunk of transportation, and I will say we are still challenged with the transportation assistance available in Jackson County. So the majority of that transportation is me. Getting people to appointments, getting people so they can have groceries or, you know, whatever the issue is. If it helps move them forward in life, then I'm going to provide the transportation if I can. Other is also a lot of things I provide, or some of those basic needs when you encounter people that need socks, that need food, that need items like that. That's me or the churches in the area, different people that I know, like Great Smokies Health Foundation. They support us, but I also know I can go by there. If somebody needs a coat, they will say, just find one. So that's some of the other. Also, I provide solution-focused brief therapy. So there's a big part of my job that is talking people through the issues and where they are and how we create a path going forward. Helping people with paperwork, all those little things that you don't think that people might need assistance with, getting from step A to step B. So that's kind of the numbers breakdown of what I just shared. The average client is still the same, basically, primarily white, female, male, basically even split, and that adult range. I had a few more elderly this past year. I think previous year I had one or two. This past year was like 4 or 5 maybe. So that's increased some, and that usually centers around just being able to care for themselves and safety or dementia issues. And here's the outcomes of people that voluntarily received, and I would say for the most part are really happy to receive the service. Small amount declined. We always have a small amount we can't come back. So that's the breakdown. Very positive feedback from those that accept services.
It's me.
Okay.
Hey, everyone. I'll add, we track from year to year what percentage of folks accept services. Our first full year of having a social worker, we were at about 50% voluntarily received services. Last year, we were about 75%. Now we're at 82%. And I think part of that growth is that people, word gets around, people are comfortable with the position in this town now. They're aware of it. And also, when we talk about receiving help, and I'm not a substance use specialist by any means, but the research typically shows that it takes someone often 4 to 6 times of attempting rehab before it sticks. And so a lot of the successes might be folks that Galadriel had previously offered services to that people had declined. And so now this is the 4th, 5th, 6th time that she is reaching out to them, and they finally have gone, okay, I'm ready to receive services now. My role here right now is to kind of give you a global picture of community care. It has been a very busy year for us with this program. We are currently up to 7 active community care sites. The first site, of course, was Sylva PD. We're in year 4 here. Waynesville PD is currently in their 2nd year. They actually hired the social worker part-time, I think in her 3rd month, and she is now there for her 2nd year. We have a 2nd intern with her. Hendersonville PD and Lincolnton PD started this year. They're both actively trying to turn those into full-time positions as well already. And then Murphy Police Department and Marion Police Department started this semester with their 1st intern. So we, at this point, this is a well-oiled machine for onboarding agencies, particularly because Galadriel is a great resource. We send lots of folks out here to Sylva to help train them. So when we get new social workers, they come and they shadow her to see what this program looks like when it's fully up and operational. So that's pretty cool. I will say we've had a great deal of attention nationally about this program. And that's because for the same reason that we started it here, there are no solutions for rural agencies. The vast majority of solutions are for large urban metros who have the budgets to basically say, hey, let's hire a whole unit to help assist with these problems. And so Katie, Alan, and I have still been the go-to folks for what does this look like in rural areas. Just some updates. We were on a webinar with, again, a national webinar, and I received a message from a board member from the International Association of the Chiefs of Police, which Chief Hutton told me is like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, if you're talking football, that's the NFL.
Yes, that's the NFL and she invited me to submit a proposal, and to send it to her for review because she really wants us to present on this program at that conference. And again, this is an international conference with folks.
There'll be people there from every conference.
Yeah. Gosh, we already, did we share about PBS?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the public safety episode, is coming down the pipeline for us. Some things that Western is doing to continue investing in this program. Katie and I are about to launch a 4-part webinar series that is open nationally for how this program, so it's how do you get started? How do you invest your stakeholders? What does funding look like? And what does program evaluation look like? With regards to program evaluation, we now have both the surveys of the officers to see how this impacts them and their jobs, but we also are looking at, we have a software program that we've paid for called Casebook, and that program tracks all of the advanced referrals and also long-term outcomes. One thing that we're very interested in is folks who interact with the community care program, does that reduce their likelihood to be incarcerated in the future? Does that get them off of the radar of the criminal justice system long-term? So this is again a longitudinal study that we are tracking in the future. And so that's the 2025 plan. 2026, we have already started talking to our educational outreach program that we would like to host a statewide, basically training academy for police social work over here at Western. We will have basically inviting law enforcement officers for 2 or 3 days to teach them how to start this program, and then inviting social workers that they hire to teach them how to do this program. And again, a lot of other towns have kind of made a pitch for what would be when we locate this to kind of a bigger city. We actively, I want you to know, say no to large departments because our focus is on supporting rural agencies who don't have the resources to do so. For us, it's important that this program stay at Western Carolina because we are the university equivalent of the town of Sylva. We are rural. We don't have a lot of resources in this town. And so for us to keep ownership and to invite people out here to see what we're doing is kind of, keeping the message where we want it to be, which is supporting chiefs and agencies who are looking for answers that we feel that we are well on our way to helping them support. Did I miss anything? Oh, I think there's one more. Funding, but I did miss that. So we have 1 more year of Dogwood funding for the community care program. Part of our agreement with Dogwood likes to invest in programs that are actively working towards a self-sustaining structure. They don't want to be the full-time funding for programs. So we are definitely having conversations now about how to shift community care into a full-time position. I will tell you that every other agency that we currently work with is supporting this program in some kind, whether that's a stipend, whether that's one of our intern sites provides housing for the intern because it's a bit of a drive. So they want to make sure that they can give them some hotel support so that they're not commuting back and forth. And three of the sites are currently in the process of getting full-time funding for these positions. So our goal here with the town of Sylva, we want this to stay our flagship program. We want this to stay on the forefront of what we're doing here because the town of Sylva is, a good representation of what rural law enforcement looks like. I want to add one small anecdote. We had shared photos of Galadriel, and she, as you can see, is in her vest. And we had a couple other social workers who said, doesn't that scare people when she looks kind of cop-like? And my response was no, because this program is so well established in the town of Sylva that even when Sylva PD shows up, people aren't afraid. And so for us, that is the biggest win of this program, is to change the perception when law enforcement visits you, when law enforcement stops you or talks to you, to not have an immediate reaction that something really bad is about to happen. And so we aren't just trying to change, let's just add a social worker to this program. We're trying to change the entire culture of a police department to let people think that this is someone who can also help you, not just have bad outcomes for you. Okay, I think, do you have any questions? Yes.
I have a few questions.
Yes.
To start with, I'm very high on this program. I think it's a great thing and I want us to continue it. Correct. As everybody well knows, town Sylva is gonna be facing a loss of some money coming up in the next couple of years. And trying to figure out how to make that position full-time and knowing that Western is gonna be trying to wean us off of y'all paying for it, which is coming next year, right?
Yeah, so it's not, we're not weaning you, the grant's running out, just so, this is not, this is not a boycott here, this is a funding issue.
So question for me is there any way, we've talked a little bit about, there's a way to use some of our alcohol money for that position to justify the part of these people's problem being with alcohol. Is there a way that Sylva could be used as training program for other surrounding towns and convince Western somehow to extend the years of paying for this or helping pay for it?
So our funding is actually from Dogwood Health Trust, and we will of course continue to put in applications for all funding that we have. At this time, this program isn't part of our jobs at Western. It's something that we run independently. Western, because of our role as faculty, has basically agreed to host us. Does that make sense? So this is not a Western Carolina program. This is a Cindy and Katie program that we partner with Western to help deliver. So the reason we're bringing up the funding now is because we have about 18 months of funding left. And so we want to, well ahead of the funding running out, start talking about solutions for how we can kind of shift away from that. There are, and the chief will tell you, we apply for every grant that comes down the pipeline. I think we actually, there are 3 other jurisdictions that are currently applying for funding. And one thing that I'll add is the biggest hurdle for us to apply for some of the bigger grants is that they require matches. For example, we're helping one agency, they received the Connect and Protect grant. That's a federal grant. It's a $550,000 grant. However, it required a 20% match for year 1 and 2, and then a 40% match for year 3. And so not having that pool of money really limits what we can kind of achieve. So we are, again, working on as many different solutions as we can, but we definitely want to have it transparent. We want this to be on the table just to let you all know that we are doing everything we can to continue funding for this. But at some point, any funding agency is going to want to see investment from the town to continue a program, especially if it's been successful. That's one thing that I think we send reports to Dogwood every 6 months about. So these stats that they just gathered will be part of our midterm report for Dogwood. The other thing I want to add is the Sylva position is the only position that we are currently funding. All other agencies are required to basically find their own funding for that. So for us, as we expand to other sites, it puts us in a bit of a challenging position because we can't be seen to be favoring one agency over the other. Currently, the way that this is our flagship, so that's kind of been we've been using this as a test site for lots of different things as we roll out programs. We start them here first, so that has been kind of helping us. But at some point, this program is going to grow to the degree that we just need to be really mindful of being fair with all the agencies that we work with as funding comes down the pipeline. And we are tracking alcohol. We did add that as.
I don't know how long ago it's been since we met.
Yeah, I think probably about 6 months.
It's been a while back, but it's been on my mind ever since. So I figured out how to come up with money to pay for this to continue because I definitely wanted to. And I think that needs to be a big part of our budget discussions when we do get into budget discussion next week. Some way to get a long-term plan to make this work because it's very effective and done our town a lot of good.
Nothing but nodding heads back there is what I noticed.
Yeah.
I think the other part of this is that we don't just send social workers to Galadriel. We also, when new departments aren't sure how officers are going to respond, our officers are, they talk to them all the time about, hey, how's this going for you? And they're like, we love this. This is a true partnership. This isn't something that was done to us. This is something that we're invested in equally. So once officers support it, it changes the conversation.
And another thought that along with what she does is, this deal with the county paying for motels for people when it's 32 degrees or less. Somehow or another, I think we need to get county commissioners to realize 33 degrees is still mighty cold. I'm not sure that we don't need to convince them that the cutoff for when you pay for a motel room for somebody needs to be something a little warmer than 32 degrees. So that's just a thought I've had, that maybe we could approach the county commissioners with some more help for that.
And any data that you need from us, we're happy to provide. We can also give you comparative data between Sylva's caseload and other counties' caseload. I think there was, we were tracking Galadriel's call because she has a radio, so she has her own phone number. And there are numerous days where she receives direct calls from our officers because she's involved with a lot of the folks that our officers deal with on a daily basis. And so she is an equal player, I think, in how we do this.
Is that where most of the referrals come from officers?
Yes, the majority are still from officers. There has been an increase in self-referrals and other agencies that have found they can't help, but then they refer to me to see if there's something I can do. But it's still primarily officers.
And I'll also you've talked about the resource roundtable, right? Oh, well, this is something that is, I think, really important for you all to know. Galadriel was speaking to so many different agencies and nonprofits, kind of one-off, and she, a couple of years ago, said, gosh, it'd be great if we could all sit at the same table instead of having these conversations on the side. And so the Center for Domestic Peace actually hosts us once a month, and they have a grant to help provide lunch. And we invite every nonprofit and every agency that helps support folks who end up in the system with frequency, and we meet every single month. And Galadriel is the one who can be in those meetings, and she's the one who leads the conversation. We often have speakers that we come to talk to. You know, do we have any new grants down the pipeline? What new resources do we have? Do we have trainings? You know, what's the current? How is everyone else's caseload going? So the irony is, we started doing that because it made sense. The federal grants that we now help other towns with, that's a requirement, is that you create an advisory board to kind of circle around the position. So we did that without realizing that that is kind of the standard for how we do things. And I think having that monthly meeting, Galadriel is again the point person for a lot of agencies to work with each other. They include, it's a good convening place. And as you all know, it's really easy to know someone, to say no to somebody if you call them on the phone. It's a lot easier to find a workaround if you know this person personally and you can see each other every month. So I think a lot of times we are doing a better job helping people because we are actively working to try to get them into resources versus identifying the barriers and what we can.
There's also another aspect that I feel like I should bring to the board members' attention that I've known about for some time, but Chief, you correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it's normal case scenario with a call going out that they don't know people, that they're trying to learn these people, figure out how to help them. There's an officer carrying a gun goes with it. But as times went on, people have gotten to where she knows the people, they know her. The call that comes in is actually for her. She's been responding to some calls by herself, which is not taking up the time of a gun-toting officer, and a great benefit to the town. So it's something we need to consider in trying to fund this position as well.
And also, as Galadriel is out checking up on the clients that she has regularly, if there's anyone new that we aren't familiar with, we try to get to them before someone calls police on them. So are you just passing through? Are you from here? Have your circumstances changed? What is going on with you? And that's the part where we talk about the pre-crisis intervention. If we can identify folks who need help before it becomes a bigger problem, then we would like to help them early in the process versus after they've already been on the streets for 6 months and they're pretty embedded in, you know, whatever issues that they currently have. So, I mean, it is, and I mean, I call the police department all the time when I see someone that I don't know, and I'm like, hey, is Galadriel available? Can we send someone out to see, you know, who this person is, because they're not known to us yet. So again, and when it's a social worker approaching you, it feels a lot less scary than when if someone's called the cops and they're telling you to move on. That feels, for both the officer and the person who's being talked to, that's just a higher risk situation. So we're trying to avoid putting our officers in high conflict situations if we can.
Yeah, I noticed the front of her uniform says social worker. That's very
Yes.
smart.
It is every shirt,
I'm not here to arrest you.
every article of clothing she has a social worker emblazoned.
On front and back.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
it.
really.
And when, I can tell you from being on a lot of co-responses, when she says, I'm with the Sylva Police Department, I'm a social worker, I'm not a police officer, I'm here to help you, that's
how
all.
start the call.
And you can watch people just, duh. And even if I'm standing right beside her, they're like, oh, okay, so you're not gonna take my freedom away. No, okay. Like, we can do business. You know, like now we can talk to each other, so.
Quick question, is the county sheriff's department utilizing this service or a similar service? It's just.
Really amazing. I just have one
We are open to having that conversation.
observation, really, like when it comes to funding and several other aspects that you guys have touched on, like public support is needed. And the stats are compelling. I'm a stats person, so I like the charts, but and there could be hurdles I might consider here, but you know, we publish in the newspaper every week who's been arrested. A terrific contrast to that for me would be without disclosing, you know, information that we can't disclose, the people that weren't arrested. I think if you share those stories
If I could find a way to tell the stories better, I surely would. It's something I struggle with all the time because there's so much confidentiality.
yeah,
And then it's really tricky, but the stories, we don't have time for them today, but like the stories.
you have to share them all, or it wouldn't be my fault, but if you shared.
Mhm. And I'm getting ready to give you
where
some more.
confidentiality maybe wasn't so much of a challenge. But I doubt most people in the public, maybe I'm wrong, are even aware at a cursory level that this is going on, let alone the success stories or the stats.
I hear about it every single day.
Possibly in the Sylva Herald, the Sylvapedia arrest section,
Mhm.
the arrest averted section.
That's what I'm talking about.
With no names.
Because that's the success of it, in
No
my
names, yeah.
opinion, is.
It's possible to give a report on that along with the arrest
Yeah,
report.
I'm going to give you some numbers right now.
But the stats
Mhm.
aren't as compelling as.
No, I know.
So one thing I'll add is, we are currently getting ready to work with, the UNC Chapel Hill School of Government's, Innovative Crime Lab. We've been working with them for about a year. They're about to come out to the town of Sylva to work with us in partnership to both do a study of the police officers. But one of the things that we are working on with them is also doing a focus group of clients that we have with community care. So once we basically get the feedback from the folks that we've been helping, we can anonymize that and we can publish that, we can make that report public for what has your interaction been with this program? How has this helped you? And more importantly, what was your path before and what is your path now? And the chief does a pretty good job putting our successes on Facebook. We'll see what the final cut is at the PBS show, but they did ride with Galadriel and we did get, there were some clients who were willing to interact. So there's a visual component of what she does and also her conversations with them was recorded. If they use it or not, not sure, but yeah, we'll see how we can help track that. I think we'll advertise this pretty heavily especially once the episode's
They're
out.
also agreed, they're going to actually make us a video, like an overview of the program, like high quality video for us to use on our website.
We can't be the flagship program and not have funding.
Yes.
I mean, I would just like to emphasize that as kind of the last slide, like.
Yeah.
That would be.
I will say that we
Success.
were not chosen originally to be one of the highlight sites for this Innovative Crime Lab. They had picked different sites. Last year, they said, gosh, Sylva's really small. I don't know. So they went with some bigger departments and they looped back around to us at the end of the year and they said, we really need to reopen this conversation because the sites that we picked didn't have the research. They didn't have the established programs. We really need to study you instead. And so again, they came back and two of the other programs that they were talking to, when they talked to them, they said, have you talked to Cindy and Katie? Because I think that's really who you need to be talking to because they have more data. So they're coming back around to Sylva because we do have, we've just been tracking all of it. And anything that you would like to see tracked, let us know because it's a completely customizable software. As soon as we had alcohol was on the table, we added a box to check for when there's alcohol present in the interaction, we can start tracking that.
They tried to blow off little old Sylva and it didn't work. And
Not work. Well, we knew. That's the thing is we said, okay, go talk. You know how it is. Go talk to some other people. And then they came back and they talked to us. So we're really excited to see the results because they have a full-time dedicated team that's going to be here for a few days, talking to our officers, talking to our town, and really kind of doing a really, from an outsider's point of view, well-rounded look at what this is.
Thank you.
So just a real quick disclaimer, I'll wrap this up right here, but just a real quick disclaimer. When you hear the word that the social worker is working with the police department, that's a real progressive idea. And there's a lot of people who don't necessarily, initially when they hear that, they don't necessarily appreciate what that can mean. They think it's one thing and whether it really fleshes out that way or not. But I want to say, I say this all the time too, but this is a good idea, and this has completely changed the way that we do policing, but we still do our jobs. This does not change our police department's principles. We still, the PD this last year, we do average of 100 traffic stops a month. And we arrest probably 22 people a month, right? So, right, Dillsborough Bridge to Burger King, right? We're not a really big piece of land. So we're still doing policing. Don't let anybody make you think that we're not. But we're not doing policing on people that don't need police, that don't need jail. You know what I mean? That's not going to help them while jail is very expensive for us. And the crimes that do get associated with some of these things like homelessness and mental health, we don't hold people for those things very long. And so it's not an effective tactic. So other law enforcement agencies, they don't have a plan for these issues. They don't. And so they have a lot of the problems that just keep happening. So,
A question for you. We wanted to somehow approach the county about helping participate in helping pay for this. Is there any kind of percentage that out of the whole county, the amount of homeless and people that are in need of her help? I bet you 90% of them's in city limits.
There's a lot. When it's like United Christian Ministries, for example, they're dealing with the whole county, right? Instead of just people that are in town.
Yeah.
And they will tell you that there are hundreds. Our school system, I heard a report from them back, it's probably been 6-8 months ago now, but our school system identified 100 homeless children in our school system, children. Not adults. So I don't know about you guys, but if I'm homeless, I'm not even going to go to the school system. I'm going to try to do this. You know what I mean? I'm going to just put that out there. But they 100 homeless children in Jackson County. So if there's 100 homeless children, right? So that kind of give you an idea of how many homeless, if we're talking about the homeless issue. So I don't know is the answer. And I get that question a lot about the county participating. That's the county. I'm in charge of the town of Sylva's police department, not anything to do with
Well,
the county.
I just don't see these folks
Right.
out in the county.
Right. And yeah, well, and here they're walking and they're all around or whatever. That actually leads me to my next point. So in 2024, Electro got 100 referrals. And again, we're talking about a small little piece of land. Sylva's not a really big place. And so 100 times, either officers or the community asked for her help to get involved in situations. And in those, 82% of the people that we offered our service to, they took advantage of it. That's pretty amazing. And so lots of stories we could tell that we don't have the time for, but as the chief, I'm telling you, her work drastically reduces our work in non-criminal issues. And it also stops putting our police officers in positions they're going to deal with mental health situation. It's not criminal, hasn't been criminal, doesn't look like it's ever going to be criminal. Those are the people that have to go deal with that. And so we've got long-term plans that we're working with the community roundtable where as a community, maybe we can send mental health people to mental health problems rather than our police officers. We're not trained to do that. It's the wrong personality. We're not the people to send to those situations. But nonetheless, if anybody in your family or whatever has a mental breakdown, you're going to call us because we're the only ones that are going to pick up the phone and the only ones that are going to go. So we got to do better than that. And this is how we do it. So the behavioral, we have it's called CAD. And whenever we Robbie called them actions earlier, whenever we do something that needs to be documented, we do it on the radio and our dispatchers, they log in and they create a document that says this happened. Just this year, Galadriel was attached to 300 of those in Sylva, not out in the county. So that is increasing fast. Robbie just told you since the last board report, 100 of those happened since the last board report. So, and that's just that we're documenting more now. So this is a low number, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, but these are numbers that we can prove. Right now, this year, we could tell you 22 human beings' names that the police department was getting police calls for. Not always criminal issues, but we were spending our time dealing with these folks. 22 people we're gonna get calls on them. And it's people that Electro got involved with. The really cool thing is We didn't use jail to do it. We helped them get where they needed to go. We helped them get an ID so that they can get a job, or help them get housed or whatever. So 22 is a lot. That's almost 2 a month in little bitty Sylva. So those 22 people would still be living their lives in public. A lot of them, they would be, I'm talking about, these people were housed. Am I saying that right? There was 22 that were housed.
No, just.
Okay, just in general. Okay, sorry. So in general, we're not getting calls on them. A lot of them were housed though.
There was, there were 10 people that I work with housed in the past year. 5 of those went through here in Jackson County. I think a couple of them were mediation where like they were able to move back in with their family. One was a landlord mediation. I think one was finally accepted into assisted living. That's where they needed to be medically. Oh, I'm forgetting the aspects of one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were.
But anyway, the first fellows would be living their lives in public. They'd be sleeping on our benches. They'd be sleeping in front of businesses. A lot of times they'd be, I know one of the issues that we've addressed as a town has been panhandling. Last time we saw panhandling, been a little bit. And I'm gonna tell you, it's not been police action that did that. I'm just telling you, stop. We have jail. And so, and the things that these folks, if they are committing any crimes, are not something that we hold them for. So I'm telling you, I'm giving that credit to the community care program and our officers being creative. Just one quick story and I'm done. A good example of this is we have a person in our town that has a really bad neighbor. And that neighbor causes a lot of grief for their business and for them. And they very much look at the police department to fix this problem, and we can't. We don't have tools. We don't have the ability to just magically fix this thing. And so, but what we need is that person to not live there anymore. But the police can't kick you out of your house. That's not how that works. Are there extreme situations? Yes. Is this match it? No. And so we have really upset folks in our towns, and they're looking at us to fix it, expecting us to. Got nothing. We can't help it. Galadriel says, why don't we help that person find another place to live? Let's just help it. The problem. We're talking about the problem person. Why don't we find them another place to live? Okay. And that's going to be the solution to this problem. It's really complex. There's a whole lot to it. But the solution is going to be because I want a better place to live. And then now our citizen is an inconvenience. What's happening? And they move on to go somewhere else. And if we don't have the tools to do it, then they just keep on living there, and our citizen keeps on being miserable and very unhappy with their police department because they expect that we can, but we can't. And so that's kind of my point, is that there are so many situations. I couldn't even attempt to stand here and tell you all of them, but so many situations where you're later on fix problems and we can't fix. A lot of them aren't law enforcement, but it's still problems. It's still our citizens needing help. And nobody would be doing it. And in other towns, nobody does anything. There's nobody there to help. So if you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Cindy had to go. Those stats, if you want those, I'm happy to give them to you. There's no problem at all. And we appreciate your time. Sure. Went a little longer than I thought. Real quick, I want you to just look at those. You've probably seen those before, but I'm just going to tell you from doing police work. I just had my 27th year anniversary as a police officer. And you don't get that from doing normal police work. I'm just going to tell you, it's not going to happen. So this is all things that popped up on Facebook over some time. When we have it, we have to tell some stories. But you just can't have it. I mean, it just doesn't come from law enforcement. But when you actually start helping people and you deal with problems in that way instead of using the jail, this is what you do.
I'm not asking you to make up math, but it sounds like very conceivable that if you had the data to support it, you could make the case that having a social worker saves money. I'm talking just from a budgeting standpoint, because that's what it's going to come down to that eventually. It sounds like, like between repeat calls that you're not making, officers that you may not have to hire to run calls that you're saying officers shouldn't run anyway. I think it might just be valuable down the road to change the perception of we need to come up with money to support this position, and change that perception to we need to come up with money to save money. Because if you don't hire a social worker, you're gonna hire more police officers to run in circles trying to solve the issues that you're saying police officers don't solve. That doesn't seem like a budget increase. That seems like a budget shift.
Then you've also got a whole department of people trying to do a job. that
They're not trained to do.
None of them qualified. to do it.
Yeah.
You got one person that could take up that slack.
But when you come out of the gates saying we have to find room for this in the budget or however that shakes out, then what almost everybody hears is we need to spend more money.
Mhm.
Well, what I'm hearing from you is that it
Yeah.
sounds, I'm not asking you to
No, I would
map
agree
it when you can't map it, but it sounds very conceivable that maybe we can find a way to map it.
Mhm.
Could you measure like somehow at least try to throw a pretty accurate dart at how many calls were not running because we have a social worker, because there's a cost to those calls. If you could do that, then it doesn't become an argument about whether or not we can increase the budget. It becomes an art of substantiation of a decrease of budget through an investment.
To me, you can't argue that it makes us more efficient, because it absolutely does. 300 times she did something that the police officer wasn't doing. And it's a lot more than 300, I'll just tell you, but 300 is the number that we have. So it definitely makes us more efficient. It puts your police officers doing things that they are trained. And lets them work, if Josh has a breaking and entering case that he can now spend time investigating that break and entering rather than going out here and finding out what's going on with Steve again, So the Laser's program, what it does is it addresses the root cause of folks' problems. People don't understand this really, but our job is to respond and stabilize. That's it. The police don't have it. There is no requirement for us to prevent ever. That's not our job. And it's nobody's job. It's the human society's job. Right? If somebody's an alcoholic and they get, they have arguments with their wife or whatever, and the police have to keep coming 2 or 3 days a week or 2 or 3 times in a day because Steve is an alcoholic. That's Steve's problem. The police's job is not to make Steve not an alcoholic anymore. But our job is to respond and stabilize every time that what Galadriel's job does is it adds in that prevention piece and puts the responsibility back where it belongs, and that's in the community. It gets DSS called. It gets, Steve to AA. Steve gets a criminal charge. Galadriel gets involved and says, hey, instead of the maximum punishment, let's give him maybe this punishment and then let's make him go to AA. Let's make Steve not an alcoholic anymore. That's the whole idea. And I love the word you use, shift. That's what it is. So, but because the way we've been doing it, don't work. So, it's not efficient, but this is definitely so. Either way, I don't want to I've kept you a lot longer than I planned to. But any other questions at all? Happy to. And of course, I'm always available. There is not a day in my life, and I mean my days off, that I don't talk about this in some point. I get this is just every day that somebody's, and I get calls from all over the state, every part of the state, even other states, of people that call me and say, "We hear this working. How are you doing this?" Western wrote a manual. They've actually written a manual how to do this stuff. And there's so many programs that have started that aren't community care necessarily, but they use that manual to do it their own way in their own towns. Good stuff.
Steve, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything on the mind? I think that conducts our business for the day. Trying to Brad Walgrove adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign. We stand adjourned.